Welcome everyone to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is the new moon report for the new moon in Aries that is happening today, April 11th, 2021. It is happening at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That means it is happening at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we still are at the balsamic phase of the moon throughout the entirety of the day, and won't reach that new moon point until this evening. So there are still lots that we are working with today, and there's so much to talk about, and we're really just gonna hit the highlights. So a couple of announcements. First, welcome back to my subscribers. Truly, you are the lifeblood of this channel, and I appreciate your support so much. If you're new to this channel, welcome as well. And a reminder for everybody that when you interact with this content through subscriptions, through liking the content, through leaving comments and sharing, it really does support independent content creators like myself by interacting with the content and sharing it, subscribing, all of that stuff. So welcome, and welcome back to my subscribers. Also, a special announcement that my subscribe star for Catalyst Energies is now active. There will be a link in the description box below. You can support this work for $3 a month. The weekly lunar quarter astrology reports and the full moon reports, as well as exclusive content about specific events, is now going to be only available to the Subscribe Star patrons. So you can go to that link for $3 a month. You can support this work. You can have access to the weekly astrology reports, the full moon report, and any exclusive content that is, based on specific events. We could, there's going to be more tier systems that are engaging people with some interactive classes and community-based interaction, and as well for certain subscribers getting access to monthly one-on-one connections as well. So I'm really excited about that. The link is in the description box below. So let's get into it. There's a lot here today. So let's backtrack just a little bit here. It's been a really intense end of this lunar cycle in Pisces. It has been incredibly emotional, has been incredibly diffusing, as moon in Pisces, especially a dark moon in Pisces is usually, has met Neptune in the last couple days, was in a square to Mars. This has been very disempowering in terms of how we have felt, and has been very, very emotional. How have your dreams been? Because I can attest personally that I have had incredible amounts of contact, and the reason that I'm bringing up the SIRIAN activation is because there has been a very significant SIRIAN starseed activation that I will share my experience with in just a moment. But as we've gone through this balsamic phase, people have, there's been a lot of different variations here, but feeling disempowered, feeling kind of hopeless, feeling a lot of struggle emotionally. I know for me personally, it's been a lot of tears, a lot of cleansing and releasing on a very deep emotional level. Now, I have also had a lot of contact recently, and it comes and goes in phases. So this is really important for the starseeds in particular. And the light workers that are aligned with the starseed mission are also getting contact, but it's the starseeds that hold the frequency within our genetic structure that really are able to bring it forward into waking life. So, one thing I did notice is that I started creating crystal grids by my bed before I go to sleep, and that has allowed contact to happen in a very significant way, but also with an energetic grid of protection. It's been very, everything about that experience has been very incredible. So I would actually recommend it. Definitely learn what the different crystals and minerals actually represent and what they resonate at in order to properly grid for yourselves. It's important. This is very potent energy work, and this is very much in line with the SIRIAN starseed frequency, innate frequency, because the SIRIANs, they function in a way where they create from vibration and utilizing natural elements like crystals, elementals, working with animals, working with plants and nature directly in order to manifest, right? And to make changes in their own environment. These star seeds, the SIRIAN star seeds, are the shamans. They are the priests and priestesses. They are the mystics, and they often are those types of energy workers. Now, there are lots of different types of energy workers and healers, but the SIRIANs are the ones that are the most shamanic, okay? And so utilizing the natural technology to actually make change is what the SIRIANs do, and they're very involved right now. And there was a major activation last night, and maybe people maybe will feel it coming into this new moon. Maybe people have pre-waved it a little bit, but it was very substantial. So I'm going to share that experience. But it has been very emotional. That has been very disempowering in terms of how we've felt, and we've really just had to let go in a very significant way and surrender. It's got that hanged man energy attached to it, but oh man, so emotional. I know for me, I've just been crying for days about so much, and feeling like they can't do anything about it. And it's been cleansing. It's been working out these programs in order to create space for this new moon, which is the birth of our inner warrior. And there are the conjunction with the dwarf planet ARIES, the goddess of chaos, is very substantial, and you can see that in a myriad of ways that are happening out in the world and definitely in your own life. And this eruption of chaos, right? The story of ARIES as she rolls the golden apple into the party she was not invited into, not only disrupts all of the party, but it brings things right out into the open. It brings all of the unresolved issues and shadow of every single participant in that environment, right? ARIES was not invited. Well, she made herself known anyway, because there's no way to really keep the chaos out. It is a part of this material universe to work with entropy. And it is through this chaos that we actually grow and evolve and change. And very specifically in this instance, it is when things are brought to the surface that otherwise may have remained hidden under our own, in our own shadow. So what happens? She rolls the golden apple, and on it is written, "To the fairest." And all of the individuals that identified themselves as the fairest start reaching for the apple. And boy, oh boy, did they start arguing with each other, fighting with each other. No, I'm the fairest. No, I'm the fairest. And Venus is a big part of this, actually. Aphrodite is ARIES' sister, right? And along with other gods and goddesses, they're all siblings, right? They're all connected to each other. But Venus is in the underworld, and today specifically, Venus is making a square to Pluto in Aries as well. So there is the beginning of this type of shadow work, because there are going to be lots of Pluto aspects this month that we'll get into. So let me talk about the SIRIAN activation real quick, because I want to also give an example for how these types of contact experiences may manifest in real time and also in the astral, because sometimes there is this expectation that it's going to be, and some people do have very vivid, very direct, very clear contact experiences and I've had them. I've definitely had them where I've been taken off world, and I've gone into, I've been in different environments in the astral. And so they can be very clear. But a lot of times what happens is that our psyche and our ego consciousness now has filter systems that allow these experiences to express themselves in imagery that makes sense to us. And so consistency in the message is absolutely key. And I've learned over time the difference between my actual guidance system and these particular star seed origins and when those beings come and interact with me. And I've learned when they are, they seem to be in my best interest, but they've actually been archons or some other type of being that is masked. And you have to learn, right? This is why energetic hygiene is of the utmost importance right now, because it's really easy. And we've seen this over the last year. It's really easy to get pulled into, thinking that some narrative, some person, some experience is giving us this insight when it's really playing off of our ego. And many of us have had to learn this the hard way, and many more will learn this the hard way. And it's our mistakes and our failures that really are where we grow the most. And so it's important to be easy on ourselves and to forgive ourselves and others, and know that every mistake or every failure or every just instance where we didn't know, you don't know what you don't know. And it takes some time to figure it out. But I am going to give you some insight on how to maybe tell the difference here. Their consistency is key, right? There are certain aspects, there are certain images that are going to be consistent with certain beings that come to contact you, especially in the astral while you're sleeping, but this can happen in waking life too. And many people have a lot of these encounters in different kinds of ways, where you see orbs, you see the starships, you get messages from animal totems. I'm going to talk about that today as well. But consistency in the imagery in the message is clear. So there was a major SIRIAN activation last night that I at least participated in. It was on a ship, and it is this activation and the SIRIAN starseeds. Now, you don't have to be a SIRIAN starseed to be visited and activated by the SIRIANs, okay? But the SIRIAN starseeds innately hold it, and so they can come forward and actually hold this frequency and use that to activate those other aspects in other people, light workers, other starseeds. So there was a major activation. So some things that will give you a sense that maybe you are on a ship, right? Or that you have been, that you're being activated directly is an environment, a classroom environment, a campus environment, right? A teaching environment in some way. Usually denotes that you are in that situation of being activated, being taught, being, your energy is being worked with in this environment with these beings. And so there are very specific images that each of us has that are unique to us. If you remember the movie Contact or the book Contact, when the character Ellie goes to meet the Vegans, right? She goes to the Vegan star system, and fixed star Vega is in the Lyran constellation. So she meets the Lyrans, and they come to her based on the imagery that they are able to interact with in her own psyche. So they come to her in the image of her father. They create an environment based on a childhood memory that she is familiar with, and that's how they interact with her. So these are kind of key concepts here that you can look to in order to say, oh, yes, I've had contact, okay? So being in a classroom environment, being on a campus, being in this teaching moment, okay? So for me, it was because I have very ancestral roots. The starseed marking in my chart has to do with those aspects. When I have visitation from the SIRIANs, they come in the form of people that I know from a very young age, right? People I haven't even thought about in years are now coming to me in my dreams in these specific environments, in specific activities that have to do with vibration and creation through vibration, through sound in particular, but also different ways. It's different for everybody. So I had this experience. I was definitely on a ship. I was definitely with them, and there was a collective activation that was happening. So the reason I'm sharing this, number one, is because this SIRIAN activation is going to be really important for this new moon, because as we embody this inner fulfillment and the potency in order to create, it's going to move into the time where Venus and Mercury and the Sun are all going to move into Taurus, and that is about substantiation. It's about substantiation into the material, and it is the resonance within us, the inner fulfillment, the courage of our inner warrior, and the ability to hold the potential for creation within us in the face of chaos, right? In a squaring off with Pluto in the shadow work, because it's not only Venus that's going to square Pluto, it's then going to be the Sun in Aries that squares Pluto. It's going to be Mercury in Aries that squares Pluto as well. So this is important, because this is giving us the tools right now and upgrading a lot of us in order to manifest within us by knowing and embodying the technology of manifestation through vibration. And that's all, crystal grids, chanting, drumming, singing, using sound, using light. These are all aspects that work with frequency and vibration. So we do know that this is going to be something we have to embody within ourselves moving forward. And when things start moving into Taurus, Venus, Mercury, Sun, all moving into Taurus, this lunar cycle, it's going to be substantiated in our bodies, right? Venus is coming home to her rulership of Taurus. Mercury is our mind being able to wrap around this, and the Sun, our fulfillment of who we are, all coming into Taurus. So this cycle is going to substantiate, and I want to bring it back around to the Chinese New Year. We are in the year of the ox, right? This is about determination. This is a very Taurus type of energy. It's about determination. It is about doing the work, right? And it's the metal ox. It's got this very yin quality to it. So it's about the inner work and the ability to bring into substantiation that which we create through the material realm. Okay, so SIRIAN starseed activation, big time right now. And let me know in the comments if you're experiencing this, if you're having any kind of contact, if you're having any kind of experiences that would relate to this. I think it's important that we share these things so that we understand that it doesn't always have to be like this really monumental, because most humans, even as starseeds, the psyche is not ready for contact. So, and this came out, lo and behold, Daniel Scranton's channeling of the Arcturians this morning spoke directly to this, and I will be posting that video on Telegram and Facebook so you can check it out, because it spoke directly to this. Now, one more thing I want to point out before we get into the charts, because it's really, we'll go through the charts and look at the very specifics, but it seems really clear to me that the larger context is really what I need to be reporting on right now. And as we go through each week and we go into the dailies, there will be specific connections to the astrology. But today we had the first real reign of spring where I'm at. And so as I was out this morning walking the dog, and there's just earthworms everywhere. They're all coming out, because what happens is that it rains and it fills all of the channels in the soil, and it pushes, the earthworms push up, right? Because they will drown otherwise. They were just everywhere. So clearly there's a message here. So what do the earthworms represent? Well, they represent, look at that, being connected to the earth. So there's that one aspect about substantiation, right? Being directly connected to very, very real earth energy. The earthworm lives within the soil, and Taurus is the soil that we are embedded in. And Aries is the seed. It encapsulates all of the potential for the growth, and that exists within us. And this new moon is that activation, that it exists within us. It's not out there waiting. We're not waiting for out there. We are embodying it, we encapsulate it, and it will be substantiated and planted in the soil. Okay? So what else does the earthworm represent? Well, earthworms are hermaphroditic. They hold the potential to reproduce within themselves. They do not come together in material form and reproduce. And this is very directly connected to this new moon Sabian symbol, a 23 degrees Aries, which is a pregnant woman in light summer dress. It is the holding of the masculine and feminine within, and the apex point, the third point of that duality coming together within us. We hold it within us, and we hold the potency within us. And this is the new moon activation. So it is about courage. It is about our inner warrior, but it's really about the fact that we hold the potential for creation within us, and it's already here. And the next cycle is going to be about the substantiation. Now there's, and so the earthworm is just everywhere, and I'm just like, yes, here it is. We hold it all, and it's surfacing, right? Because of all this cleansing rain, the first real rain of spring. Now everywhere's not going to have this weather. This is just being brought to me so I can transmit it to you. So that's really the embodiment of this whole lunar cycle and the SIRIAN activation, because we embody the frequency, the capacity for changing frequency in order to manifest. And it is through various types of techniques that the SIRIANs are very responsible for bringing, and was a big part of why Atlantis, we weren't ready for it. We were not spiritually ready for it. And there are factions of SIRIANs, right? And part of their role right now here with us is to make that right. Right? They brought it. We were not ready for it. They are, and we were not ready to hold it, and it destroyed everything that we had come to at that point, this advanced civilization. And then the Egyptians really embody a lot of the SIRIAN archetypes in their cosmology, in their deities, in their everything, right? When the Nile is about to flood is when the time of year that Sirius starts to rise and be visible, okay? It's important to realize that. And if you start thinking about the technology that the pyramids represent and what they were really there for, again, harnessing energy, and using it to as a form of technology. It's just that the SIRIAN starseeds do this very through natural energy. And that's what the pyramids were for too. They're harnessing natural energy of acoustics, of the vibration of the planet itself, the heartbeat that is expressed through the Schumann resonance. So, big activation, okay? So it's important to stay grounded, but realize that this is coming through very strongly. So there's a couple things we're gonna, talk about. We'll go into this week really directly, and then we'll just touch on the basics as we move through this. We are going to have a full moon on the 26th in Scorpio, and it's very, very close in degree to where Uranus went direct. Oh gosh, when was that? That was in January, right? Was that right before the 6th? It was in January. I'll have to go back and look, because that was a very substantial and important moment. And so this full moon is at that degree. Well, it's about a degree off. And the substantiation of all of this energy and the embodiment of our ability to create from our own inner duality, our own potency to create, we're going to really need a lot of patience this month, okay? A lot of patience and courage moving through this month. So there's a couple things. Obviously today, Venus is going to square Pluto. Venus in Aries, and that means the sun is going to square Pluto. That means Mercury is going to square Pluto. And then Venus, the sun, and Mercury all move into Taurus. And in fact, Venus and Mercury are going to transit the entirety of Taurus during this lunar cycle from start to finish, and move into Gemini before the next new moon. So this is really very powerful time. And then that means that Mercury moves, so Venus will be in her rulership, and then by the time we get to the end of this lunar cycle, Mercury will move into its rulership in Gemini and meet the North Node. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunity and pioneering that we move into with the next lunar cycle. Mercury meets the North Node at the very end of this lunar cycle. And so this is about the substantiation of what we are embodying within our ability to create, and to the impulse to be ourselves. Now, Pluto is very much part of this whole cycle because we are about to go into a Pluto retrograde cycle. So Pluto goes retrograde on, well, we'll look at the chart, but it will go retrograde in this time, and it will be retrograde until October. It'll retrograde back to 24 to 25 degrees Capricorn, and will not exit its shadow period until January of 2022. So we are about to go into our own underworld, right? It's about to get even more intense in this way in terms of what Pluto represents, the Lord of Death and transformation, going back over old territory in terms of its potential power and that destructive force that does create the space in order to it creates the space in order to create something new. That is what Pluto does. It is the final word of our soul's transformation is Pluto. And we do have a full moon that's going to be in Scorpio. And so when everything moves into Taurus, this fixed energy is going to be highlighted because Taurus is going to be in a square to all the Aquarian energy, right? Fixed energy. And then the Taurus is also going to be in a square to Leo, which is going to be the first quarter square. And so this at 0 degrees, Taurus and Leo. So, wow, there is going to be a lot of challenge, but I think we're up for it. And we had a major activation coming, or has been here with the SIRIANs, because they embody and they hold the SIRIAN starseeds hold the frequency of being able to manifest from within. Sacral chakra, throat chakra, connected to each other. The sacral chakra is that orange color. It is our immune system. It is the seat of our creative power, right? The kundalini coiled at the base of the spine, moving up, and it's through this throat chakra that we create a resonance and change and express that creative potential through our speech, through our expression, through chanting, through sound, right? Through all of the different modalities that use frequency coming through and being expressed. And this is when we actually change the geometric pattern of the matrix that we're in. It's so powerful. So let's start looking at some charts so that we can get, a view here in reality, well, at least some version of reality. Boy, I hope everybody's doing well and is really taking good care of themselves and just letting things flow through them. I mean, now that the moon, as we see, is in Aries right now, it's much more, you can feel the shift in you can feel the shift in our inner landscape has gone into much more of a desirous and kind of on fire a little bit and ready to go. So that's been a nice change of pace from the the dark moon in Pisces. That has been really difficult. So here we are on the 11th. We have the moon coming into just past Mercury in a conjunction with that snake coiled at the bottom of our spine. And so we are able to wrap our minds around this, but at the same time, the moon is also allowing us to emotionally interact with that as well. And so it's really getting it ready to be released with this new moon, okay? Because it is the Kundalini energy that is coiled at the bottom, that is really the sexual potency that is our own ability to create as humans, right? And so this is what Tantra and tantric practices are really based on, is the harnessing of this Kundalini for more than just procreation. But procreation is the actual expression in real time in a substantiated way of this energy. So we're getting ready for it. It's coiled at the bottom. It's coiled at the base, just like that SIRIAN activation is activating that Kundalini. And it takes real mastery. And so again, the Draco starseeds are being activated as well with asteroid Vesta in Virgo at Alpha Draconis, because the Dracos and the reptilians that have not mastered this serpent energy are the ones that tend to abuse and exploit it for their own self-preservation. They have not allowed themselves to connect to source directly, and so they use this energy to siphon and control others because they have chosen not to have a direct connection to source or to God. So Draco starseeds are the ones that are able to hold this resonance at the highest light if they are choosing to step forward and be activated. And asteroid Vesta is really training her priestesses in the temple. And you don't have to be female. This is about innate frequency. This is about the archetype within. When we talk about the priestess energy, the priestesses hold the frequency. The feminine holds the frequency. It receives it. Okay, so this is the new moon chart. Let's see here. Let's look at some more aspects that come on now. Let's see here. Let's look at some more aspects of today. The moon is going to sextile the North Node. The moon in Aries is going to sextile Saturn. It's going to conjunct Mercury, as I said, and then meets for the new moon. And it's from there that Venus then does square Pluto. So we do have this opportunity to regain, use our imagination to regain something that we've lost an opportunity for. And this is about the failure that allows us to learn. And it will be difficult, right? A squaring off with Pluto is not an easy energy, especially because Aries is so is really just about the potency and the desire. It hasn't substantiated yet, but we do get this opportunity, even though it's going to be a difficult opportunity. And we'll get it over and over with the Venus, then the Sun, and then Mercury all squaring Pluto during this cycle as well. And then the moon comes around to sextile Mars by the end of today in Gemini, giving us a chance to giving us a real chance to allow our consciousness to be molded by spiritual essences, right, in order to really grow. This is important to not leave ourselves open to being exploited or abused, and this is important. Our energetic hygiene has to be on point, so we are not allowing in anything that is not of the highest for our own activation and our highest potential. It's very easy to allow those forces in that really, massage our ego, and we think that we're channeling something that is really there to keep us in a trauma loop rather than setting us free. So there's a lot of and look at all of the Aries. Look at it, Chiron and Mercury and the moon and the sun and Venus. I mean, so much potential today. Very, very powerful. So here we go. We're going to move into the first week here. So the moon is going to come around and meet Venus tomorrow. And so this square to Pluto is going to be something that we are going to then we're embodying it in our bodies, in our material world, in our relationships. We're sensitive to it with Venus. And she's already down there with Pluto. And so she's squaring off in that space. But then the moon comes around and meets her. And so then it becomes much more emotional, much more personal, much more of an intuitive experience in our feelings, as not just our body. So that's in tomorrow. It's going to become much more, I wouldn't say palpable, but much more in our feelings. And at the same time is going to sextile Jupiter in Aquarius. And so we have this chance here to really be able to use our mental efficiency where Jupiter is at in Aquarius, right? Expanding and giving us the resources to be able to use all of our mental efficiency to make sure that everything is exactly where it needs to be, right? We're testing the batteries and making sure that everything is where it needs to be. And so again, sextiles are an investment. And so we can invest this incredible potency of, we want to make sure before we activate things that we test the batteries, that we test the equipment, and Jupiter is giving us all of the knowledge, expanding on all of the resources in order to do this, and it allows us to make sure that we are not stepping into something, trying to hold more than we can. Okay. Now, this is also Andromedan starseed territory now that the moon and Venus are in. And so this really pushes social evolution forward, but it also it's very difficult to be pinned down. Andromedan starseeds, they want to be free, completely free. And so obligations, commitments to time, emotional manipulation, all of these things are Andromeda starseeds. They don't want to, they want nothing to do with. And so sometimes we can push ourselves out or act on things prematurely because we don't want to be confined. And this is a moment here where Jupiter is giving us all of the tools in order to make sure that everything is exactly where using our intelligence and our mental efficiency to test everything so that we do not try to hold more than we can, because if you do, then you drop it all. And then that's, you can't hold all of the potency of creation. Okay. So we move into the 13th, and this is when the sun sextile to Mars. And so that means that everything, we've already had the sextile from Venus to Mars, and now the sun is going to sextile Mars. And again, it's going to be in conjunction. The sun will be in a conjunction to ARIES. And so the sun meets ARIES, and it's this possibility to live in two realms of experience. Again, working with the duality, but being able to live it at the same time. And this is going to be about the chaos and living in the chaos, but also being in our power at the same time. A sextile to Mars is trimming back all of the thoughts and the expression and the ideas and the exploration and the discovery and the exteriorization of that. Pruning is an important part of gardening. Again, you ever been involved in horticulture, you understand this, that when you prune things, it allows the plant to give resources to the most important aspects. And so this is about trimming back all of those thoughts that have just been kind of growing out everywhere. And Mars, Mars is Mars. And so it's going to take courage, and it's going to take determination, and it's going to take, a warrior willing to do that. And of course, the warrior is just like, no, I just wanted to just go out. And so this is going to take some restraint. But it will, and with Mars being the ruler of Aries, we will be able to manage in some ways this experience of chaos and the courage and the activation aspect, while at the same time, trimming back everything that is not necessary and holding us back from really giving our energy to the things we want to grow. So this is a great investment opportunity. This is on the 13th, right? Here we go with the sun in a sextile to Mars. The 14th is when Venus moves into Taurus and comes home. This is so beautiful. This is when the material realm, our relationships, our resources, our value, what we consider valuable, is going to be very much in this pure state of substantiation. A clear mountain stream is the Sabian symbol for the beginning of Taurus. And so by the 14th, we will be able to, at least in a very material way, if under the surface, right, be able to embody this in a very natural way. This is so beautiful. I'm looking forward to this moment. And then from there is when the sun and then comes, there's a lot of investment opportunity. Remember, the sun is exalted in Aries. What does that mean? It's not in its rulership, but it's in a familiar territory. And so it still has a lot of power in Aries. And so the sun is going to be making a lot of sextiles. So a lot of our spiritual fulfillment and expression of who we are is going to get a lot of chance to invest itself in different ways. And so here's this investment right into Jupiter in Aquarius. And it's the same thing that with the moon, right? Possessed of more gifts that we can hold. Again, this is the apex of the, this is, again, Andromedan starseed, right? We want to make sure that we can hold everything that we are activating. And Jupiter, expanding on our ability to test the battery, right? What is a battery other than a vessel to hold all of the potential energy of the electricity? Aries is the electrical fire. And so this is an incredible opportunity as well. And it will be kind of a warning. And so we're already going to kind of get this already today and into tomorrow with the sun, or the moon, excuse me, in a sextile to Jupiter. And then the sun comes around and it's going to be much more obvious to us, much more expressed and out on the surface. And at this point, the moon will be in Gemini, as you will see. And so then we're really going to start dealing with the dialectic within us, and what that feels like. The 15th, the 16th, that means the moon is going to meet the south node, or the north node is going to also eventually meet Mars in Gemini, but this is when the sun squares Pluto. So today we have this embodiment of this square. Venus is already in the underworld. She's facing off with Pluto. Pluto's really testing her ability to regain a lost opportunity. Well, now the sun is going to be in full expression of that and squaring off against Pluto as well. And so this is going to be an opportunity at this moment. As much as a square is a difficult thing, it's going to be an opportunity to learn something when these two aspects square off with each other, of regaining a lost opportunity, realizing that failure is part of how we grow and learn. And Pluto is just, destroying everything about the old matrix, especially destroying everything about how we get to our ascension, right? The old aspects of it are getting wiped away, right? There's an avalanche, or there's a mudslide or a landslide that wipes out the pathways that have been there forever and ever and ever. And Pluto's just destroying them. And so we get a chance now to find a different pathway up the mountain within us, right? Aries, the potential within us to be. And this is quite a week, isn't it? It's quite a week. And it's and then we come into the 17th, where Mars is in a sextile to Jupiter. Or trine, excuse me. Mars, this is where real courage is going to come into play, because we are going to be emerging from a place where we are usually safe and protected within our own comfortable mindset, and stepping out. Right? Emerging from the forest where our tribe is encamped and interfacing with that which seems to be the opposite of us. And Jupiter is going to support this very structurally in this trine, by expanding on our delicacy of feeling, and giving, it's like expanding on our ability to be coherent to natural law and to the connection with each other through our feeling. Wow, this is going to be incredible. And at the same time, Mercury is going to sextile Jupiter, just like all the other aspects of Venus and the Sun in a sextile to Jupiter. Through our imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. Mercury is going to sextile Mars at the same place, so this Mars and Jupiter and Mercury connection all on the 17th, as you see here. Here's Jupiter in a trine to Mars. Here's the sextile right here to Mercury. Here's the sextile from Mercury to Jupiter. This connection here is really going to be powerful in a very healing way, but also more, there's going to take a lot of courage to step out of our comfort zone, and we're going to have Mars and Jupiter able to help here, and Mercury will be allowing us to wrap our minds around how this is where we get to come back around and try again. Right? Try again if we need to try. Now, at the same time, again, Mercury is going to square Pluto at the very same time. So again, making sure that we are realizing that Pluto is consistently wiping away all of the old ways of doing things, of getting up the mountain that have, and all the pathways that have been tread before. And you can really think of this as the collective neural pathways in some ways, the matrix of reality unfolding, and it's just getting erased by Pluto. So, wow, this week is really going to test just right out the gate all of this, the encapsulation of our inner fulfillment. And the 18th, Mars is going to quincunx Pluto, Mercury, and Mercury is going to conjunct the Sun. Oh my gosh. And this moment here, they're actually going to conjunct at the very last degree of Aries. And so this last moment before the substantiation, the communication is going to get so bright and brilliant. Our mind, the function of our mind is going to be shining, and it's all going to be this last moment here of potential creation as it becomes substantiated. After all of this energy on the 17th that is giving us opportunity to connect, the courage to step out of our comfort zone in our minds, and the challenge of Pluto, always the challenge of Pluto. This is, by next Sunday, in a week from today. And then they're going to both move into Taurus on the 19th. And then we come into the first quarter square on the 20th at 0 degrees Leo with the Sun, and 0 degrees Taurus with, or 0 degrees Leo with the Moon, 0 degrees Taurus with the Sun. And this is going to be a challenge, right? What is that first quarter square of the Sun and Moon? Well, it's a crisis in action. We've had our new moon intention, we've set the intention, and now this is the first moment within us where we feel that challenge of that intention. And the first degree of Leo is blood rushing to our head, and Leo is the rulership of the Sun, and the Moon is exalted in Taurus, and so they're going to be in signs that the other is much more familiar with. So we can use this as a way to mitigate some of the discomfort of this situation, because there's no resolving a square. It's just, it happens, and you have to just lean into it and get what you can out of it. And we want to be expressing ourselves, right? The Sun in this substantiated, very natural way, but the square with the Moon is, we're going to be really feeling that blood rushing to our head and really feeling our heart pumping to be ourselves, to express ourselves, the Leo archetype. So, again, patience is really going to be important, but also the ability to not completely discount where the Moon is and our ability to express ourselves individually. This is the first quarter square. So as we move through the rest of the cycle, especially this first half, let's talk about it real quick here. The big ones. Venus is going to conjunct Uranus. Now, this is where it's going to start getting interesting on the 22nd. That also means that so Venus is going to meet Uranus. Mercury is going to meet Uranus, and I'm pretty sure that the Sun is going to meet Uranus all during this cycle. And so all of these aspects, the mind, our sensitivity and our physical embodiment and value of Venus, and the Sun, our expression of ourselves, our fulfillment of who we are, all going to meet Uranus during this time and really challenge us. So the first one is going to be Venus. She's leading the way, right? So we're going to embody it within us, in our sacred feminine, in our value system, in our material resources, our relationships. It's going to meet Uranus and trigger that, that radical transformation and disruption that Uranus represents. A woman watering flowers in her garden. The pathway of our awakening is going to come from our own cultivation of our own consciousness. We have to be patient. We can't force things, but we have to nurture them as well if we want them to grow. And Venus is going to come along, and it's going to be very much embodied in who we are. And Uranus, doing the normal Uranus thing, which is, disrupting everything and causing a psychological crisis, and especially in our physical material environment. So Venus is at least at home in Taurus, so there'll be this soothing, and it'll be kind of like, yes, it's okay. Let's water the flowers. This is how it happens. Like, yes, there's going to be disruption, but Venus is going to be like a balm, right? It's going to be soothing, and it's going to be grounding. And this is going to be really, really nice. Where did you go? Let's see here. This is the 22nd. All right, here we go. I want to try to keep this. Now, what's happening on the 23rd? Well, Mars moves from 0 degree, moves into Cancer, and Mars is in its fall position in Cancer. What does that mean? It is losing its influence, and because Cancer is about consolidation, it is about the protection. And we would think that Mars is a protector, but Mars is active. Mars as a warrior is acting, is going out, is penetrating, is enterprising. And so when it's in Cancer, it is going to lose its influence because Cancer is about consolidation. It's maternal. It is the vessel that holds our emotional vulnerability. And so Mars is going to start losing his influence during this transit, okay, when it moves through Cancer. And then right after that, this is when Mercury meets Uranus, as you can see, and is already passed on the 24th of April. So our minds will now be able to, we're cultivating our own consciousness and our own awakening very naturally through an awareness, a mental awareness, and the mercurial aspect is going to meet Uranus. Now, Uranus and Mercury are kind of connected because Mercury is about our own mental state, our own conception of the immediate environment, and Uranus is the collective third eye. It is the ruler of Aquarius, which is the energy that connects all of us, and using our mind to do that. And so they will meet each other, and Uranus will give the message to Mercury and be like, listen, here's the download, okay, of how to do this. We've already embodied it in our relationships and all the things that we find value in with Venus. Now it's going to be much more in our minds, and Venus is going to give the download, right? We're going to connect to Uranus is going to give the download at this point. So Mars is going to start losing its influence, and this is when things are really going to start substantiating and slowing down and really consolidating, and getting into the much more material, and require some patience at this point. So on the 25th, we're leading up to this full moon here. That means Venus, now we're going to have all these squares, to Saturn, right? The Aquarian and Taurus squares, right? Venus is going to start squaring Saturn, and then Mercury is going to square Saturn at the same time. You can see that Venus and Mercury are going to come together in this day. So they're both going to square Saturn, and we have some baggage we have to deal with here. That is Saturn, Saturn doing its Saturn thing, which is like, okay, you are carrying this heavy baggage and you have to carry it. And so Venus is going to have this connection. Mercury is going to have this connection. And when they come together, it's going to, we're going to let go of it. We're going to realize that we can let go of it and just enjoy life. Okay, this is going to be quite a frustrating, but also very liberating moment on the 25th, coming into the full moon. which will be on the 26th, as we'll see here. And this is going to and look at this amazing air trine. Mercury, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Mars is out of sign. So it is an out of sign grand trine because Mars is now in Cancer, but it's still going to be significant because we have the moon in Libra, Jupiter in Aquarius, and then with Mars. So Mars, so close to Gemini still, but now is coming into this second degree of Cancer, which is, the ability to kind of float above all of it, to detach, right? The first degree of Cancer is the root system, making a decision of where we belong. And so the converse of that, the opposition to that energy of 2 degrees is, detaching emotionally, being on the magic carpet, so to speak, being able to float above it all. And so that is really going to be a strong, stable energy for coming into this full moon, which is going to be the moon in Scorpio. And we're going to go back to it. I want to show it to you. Because it's going to be, it's 7 to 8 degrees Scorpio, 7 to 8 degrees Taurus, okay? So a fixed energy of earth and water. And this is about the ability to, we're going to see very clearly if we can keep the waters of our emotions still. We're going to have, this is like a psychic, intuitive, like see into time. But the only way we're going to be able to really do this is if our emotions are able to be as still as the water and we get a clear reflection of the moon in our emotional state, in our intuitive state. And if we can do that, we're going to be able to see what's coming, like very clearly what's coming. And it's going to be a very intuitive and psychic connection, but it's going to require that we have our emotions be as still as we can with this full moon. And so we will see what we have to let go of in order for that to be the case. And this grand trine right before it is part of that energy of Jupiter, the Libra moon, and then that out of sign aspect of Mars that is in this moment kind of hovering above everything emotionally. Remember, Cancer is the rulership of the moon. And so there is a connection here as well in terms of our inner space, right? So that leads us up to the full moon. So the big issues for the rest of that cycle are right after that is when Pluto goes retrograde, okay? Retrograde until October 6th, doesn't exit shadow until January. So from this full moon, we are now going to go deeper into the underworld and go back over old territory with Pluto, right? There are aspects that have not been totally, transformed yet, and we are going to go back into them. And so this again is going to be very much about being able to see what's coming, being able to anticipate in some ways and use our imagination to anticipate what is coming. But it's going to come through our emotional, intuitive channel. And then Pluto goes retrograde right after that, okay? And after that, the sun is going to conjunct Uranus on the 30th, as we see here. And then again, and you can see that we have an opposition here with the Cancer, Mars in Cancer, and the moon is going to move into Capricorn at that point. But the big one here is the sun in a conjunction with Uranus. So again, it's the same degree about watering the flowers in our garden, right? We got Venus that came along and really grounded us into it, was like a soothing energy about it. Yes, let's just water I know it's disruptive, but let's water the flowers, right? Let's take it down to what we can actually do something about in real time. That's very material, right? Mercury is going to come along and get the download from Uranus. Okay, in the mind. Okay, this is the way we can do it through our thoughts. This is how we cultivate our own ego consciousness in this way. And then the sun comes around and meets Uranus. And this is going to really stimulate so much at this point, right after Pluto goes retrograde. And, there's a lot of irritation here because there's so much hyper hyper mental energy with Uranus, so much disruption, so much like active energy, so much, all of that Uranian aspect that is just turning everything on its side and being like, this crisis is what is awakening us. And so when the sun comes, it's very irritating and very like, it feels like if you've ever been to Sedona and you've been to the vortex, the airport vortex, it's like, it's electric. Right? It's static, it's electric, but it's in a very material way. And it's bringing us back to our own embodiment and fulfillment of who we are. Again, is going to be in this very natural cultivating aspect. And so it's going to be really jarring, but at the same time, it's also going to be very enlightening and awakening at that moment, right? It's really going to awaken us to the reality that we have to actually put the work and the care and the nurturing into our own consciousness if we want it to grow into something that we set out with the full moon or the new moon, right? The inner fulfillment that we're all holding and encapsulating. So this is where now that's the last day of April. So we're moving into May, and this is where now that Mercury is now that we are in this Taurus energy, Mercury is going to trine a retrograde Pluto. As you can see here, is going to come into a trine with Pluto and support this process that we're all going through as well. And it will, go back to where Uranus was. Remember, this is the download that we got with the conjunction with Uranus is then going to really stabilize this connection to Pluto, now retrograde, that is, we're all doing this shadow work within us now. It's been very much out on the surface, and now it's going to come into our own inner realm while we go through this. Monday the 3rd is the third quarter square. We have more fixed squares because the moon will be in Aquarius, as we'll see here. And Mercury is going to square Jupiter as well. So there's a lot of fixed energy with Aquarius and Taurus. The sun is going to square Saturn. So this period of time there's going to be a lot of tension here with these squares, fixed squares, and the sun's going to square Saturn. This is going to be this is going to be difficult, I think, with Mercury in a square to Jupiter and the sun in a square to Saturn at the same time, and the sun squaring the moon in Aquarius. And then from there, Mercury comes into Gemini. So, whoo, boy. It's going to be really frustrating, and then Mercury is going to break out into its rulership, and we are going to see all of the potential of our minds and where it could go. And then we move into the last week here. And what's happening that's really substantial? Well, the moon, or Venus, is going to come in and trine Venus is going to trine Pluto on the 6th, right? Venus is going to come into that trine to Pluto. And so, again, this is stabilizing everything that we are cultivating naturally, the groundedness, especially Venus in Taurus at this point. So she is really stabilizing this retrograde Pluto action as well. Is that, okay, I've done the work. I've really grounded into and stabilized my what is valuable to me, what I want to grow, what I want to nurture in my own life, and what's valuable. Where Pluto is at it's going to stabilize this transformation process that Pluto is still in, is now within us, right? And this is, oh my God. This new moon is so important. I mean, because this is setting the tone not just for this lunar cycle, but the whole year, right? The first new moon of post-equinox. So, and then Venus is going to square Jupiter. Venus is going to also come into Gemini after this as well. And so this is when communication and we get much more social in some ways, where we're engaging with a lot more diversity in our relationships, in our thought patterns as well. And squaring off with Jupiter right before that is, because Jupiter wants to expand and Venus is like, well, that's great, but I'm like completely substantiating where I've been. And now I'm going to bring that into my immediate environment, which is what Gemini in the third house represents. And as we come into the very end of this lunar cycle, Mercury is going to meet the North Node. And at that point, and the moon will be back in Taurus at this point, and the Mercury is going to meet the North Node, and we are going to, there are newly open lands here, and we're really going to conceptualize it in our mind and really work to manifest it to see where we're going. And the North Node is pulling us in the direction of our soul's evolution and growth, and this is new territory. So by the end of this lunar cycle, as we come into May, just before, we're looking at 2 weeks before the next eclipse cycle starts, we're coming into brand new territory. So this whole lunar cycle is about the fact that we have it all within us to create. It's all here. And this whole cycle is really going to be about our ability to be patient and determined and focused enough to bring it into the material. And there's a lot of support with all of this Taurus energy, especially Venus coming into Taurus, and Pluto, the Lord of death and transformation and rebirth and metamorphosis, is going to be very much part of this cycle. So expect too that there are going to be losses. There is going to be destruction in some way, and it's going to then go back over some old territory with Pluto. And so expect some things to come back around that had been going on, months prior, that we are now going to be addressing in a much more internalized way. So, wow, that's a lot of information, but that's the whole month right there. So I invite you to go back and listen. I will be on Subscribestar from now on for the weekly, so you can subscribe and go there. In order to stay up to date, the daily medicine transmission will always be offered on my platforms for free. That is an intuitive message. We do weave the astrology in, but that is my offering to the collective. And so that's always accessible if you don't want to subscribe. But if you want the astrological content, the fourth dimensional modality that allows us to see through time and get to that fifth dimensional perspective, which is mastering time and space in unity consciousness, then subscribe to my Subscribestar profile, and you will be able to get the weekly astrology updates and the full moon as well. So let me know how you're feeling in the comments. Oh, I appreciate you guys so much. I also appreciate being able to transmit this information to you. It's a lot. I'm excited to see how this goes. It's going to require so much patience and determination from us, but where it's going is incredible. And when we come into May, especially when we come into the next eclipse cycle, we're going to be in a whole new territory. And it's really about what we create from within. And so it's up to us. And this new moon is our opportunity to set that intention and plant those seeds of inner fulfillment that will manifest and substantiate out into the material for us to engage with. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Like I said, don't forget to interact in some way with this content if you want to support it. Go to Subscribestar for $3 a month. You can support the astrological work that I'm doing. And have a great new moon, everybody. I am looking forward to this next month. And I will see you tomorrow on Monday for the Daily Medicine transmission. Take care of yourselves.